What would happen if Iran permanently closes the Strait of Hormuz? And what would be the economic impact on Iran if their oil facilities were attacked? Today we're talking about the Middle East. Tensions are very high. Iran and Israel are facing off in a very direct way, and the US's involvement makes things even more complicated. Every move is a big risk. In the middle of all this is the Strait of Hormuz. This maritime passage is something we all need to watch. A significant portion of the world's oil supply passes through here. So, any conflict here could disrupt the global economy and seriously drive up the cost of living. The current crisis is something we need to watch very closely. The impact of a war that America and Israel start on Iran doesn't seem to be limited just to the Middle East, as the region, where the rest of the world gets most of its oil supply, is disrupted by war. Regular trade will be interrupted. Iran's statement that it will target any ship passing through the Strait of Hormuz makes this matter even more concerning. Hormuz is one of the busiest shipping routes in the world. About 20% of the world's oil and natural gas passes through this narrow strait. Following the war that was waged on it, Iran is saying not a drop of oil will pass through this route. If this vital maritime corridor faces disruption, it will open a wide door for commodity and oil prices to skyrocket. In particular, major economies that are heavily reliant on this route, like China, India, and Japan, will be directly harmed. Since many countries buy various products from these three countries, the price increase will indirectly spread to the rest of the world. The Strait of Hormuz is one of the world's most critical maritime choke points, especially for oil transit. It's bordered by Iran to the north, and the United Arab Emirates and Oman to the south. The strait is about 50 kilometers long, with its narrowest point being 31 kilometers wide. Reports show that last year, 20 million barrels of oil passed through daily, which translates to roughly $600 billion in trade per year. This oil comes from various regional countries, including Iran, Iraq, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. What would happen if the Strait of Hormuz were closed? It is a maritime corridor with very dense shipping traffic. At least 3,000 ships pass through monthly. When this narrow passage is closed, 20% of the world's oil supply is cut off. The day after America and Israel began a war on Iran, oil prices showed an increase. This was because many oil tankers could not pass through the Strait of Hormuz. The cost of shipping oil from the Middle East to China has doubled since the war began. The closure of the strait will cripple the economies of the Gulf countries. Countries like Saudi Arabia, whose economies are heavily reliant on oil, will be the most harmed. Iran used to export an average of 1.7 million barrels of oil per day. Based on this calculation, Iran exported oil worth $67 billion last year. It did this using the Strait of Hormuz. China was the bearer of 90% of Iran's crude oil. After that, China would refine the crude oil and send it to various countries. Mostly, the consumers of this refined oil are Middle Eastern countries themselves. The closure of the strait will affect both crude and refined oil flows. It will prevent crude oil from leaving and refined oil from entering. Following Iran's statement that it will close the Strait of Hormuz, U.S. President Donald Trump said his army might provide escorts in the region. Even so, the war's impact on oil prices will exist. Qatar, which covers 1/5 of the world's oil demand, stopped working because its largest refinery was hit. Because of this, oil prices in Europe jumped by 30%. If the war lasts long and the strait is closed, the impact will be more than just on oil prices. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to become a part of our community.